morning. Good morning, everyone. I am Ayeshwini, and I'm here with my teammates Misael and Nivethitha. Today, we'll be presenting about the education employment discontinuities among international community college students in Ontario. In recent years, there has been a significant rise in the number of international students across Canada. In 2023, over 1 million international students held a valid study permit in the country, 52% of whom were enrolled in a post-secondary institute in the province of Ontario. Ontario, as you can see, has the highest percentage of international students, followed by British Columbia, Quebec, and Alberta. However, due to the varying policies across these provinces in the country, we have chosen to focus our study on the province of Ontario. The reason for the surge in the number of international students is partly due to the changing immigration policies in Canada over the years, and also due to Canada's international education strategy, which facilitates the increase of enrollment of international students, as well as the integration of these students into the Canadian society. International students have a variety of contribution to the Canadian context, and I would like to share a little about the revenue contribution that we have. In 2018, international students contributed a total of 21.6 billion Canadian dollars to the Canadian economy, 228 million of which was directly through tuition revenue. However, despite our significant contribution, the utilization of our skills in the Canadian labor market has been a challenge across the country and in Ontario. And international students like us are seen to face a disconnect between the education and employment from our previous education and the employment that we may find here in Canada. All three of us are international students from various countries in Asia who have recently graduated from a postgraduate program from a community college in Toronto, Ontario. We came here with a dream of progressive and meaningful employment, excellent education, stable finances, and a solid societal support, which is how Canada advertises itself as a destination for international education. However, we face the reality that there is an existing paradox of international students being seen as a solution to Canada's skill deficit, but our skills and experiences being foreign and inapplicable to the Canadian context. Therefore, we are given more short-term, low-paying jobs that fill more short-term labor needs. And we find ourselves asking where do we fit in and how we can move on from this deficit-based perspective of international students to a more strength-based perspective. It is also important to learn about the stakeholder system and how it functions. Therefore, I'd like to highlight a connection between the governments, post-secondary institutions, employers, and international students by taking an example of the recent and sudden policy change on the temporary cap that was placed on incoming international students. A policy change such as this is announced by the federal government, implemented by the provincial government, and there are responses from various stakeholders. Post-secondary educational institutes may narrow down the courses that they offer, and they may face panic induced by reduced incoming revenue from international students. The sudden changes can also leave employers confused about the status of international students, thereby making them less likely to employ us. International students, therefore, may not find the kind of program that they're looking for or the kind of professional employment that they seek, leading to discontinuities in education and employment. Changes at the policy level always have a ripple effect, and being at the center of the stakeholder system, it is the international students who often seem to face the brunt of it.
We will not be able to understand the systemic challenges without understanding the policies, the barriers that limit us to transition from education to meaningful employment, and the root causes that we face to help us utilize our skills and capabilities. Since 1947, the Canadian immigration policy has evolved from perceiving international students as temporary guests to recognizing them as potential source of skilled labor. Today, Canada acknowledges international education as a strategy for economic growth, highlighting the important role of international students as ideal immigrants, crucial to addressing labor shortages. While this federal policy context shapes the immense potential that we bring into the Canadian economy, we at the same time bear the brunt of the uncertainties of these policy changes. Interestingly, the province of Ontario's education policy only focuses on primary and secondary education. We are confronted with several barriers. With the differential fees and the current cap on international enrollment, work restrictions leading to unemployment and underemployment contribute to a fundamental disconnect between policy and the actual labor market opportunities, rendering us unable to find jobs at the same level of our capabilities. We have also noted gaps between community colleges and the labor market. Yes, schools provide us with a Canadian study experience, but it doesn't lead to actual opportunities that will give us a Canadian work experience. Not having clear strategies for international student employability, the lack of long-term vision, limited stakeholder collaboration, and commitment to bridging education and employment make it difficult for us to navigate the job market effectively. Employer bias, which favors Canadian work experience and language skills, often undervalues foreign work credentials, making it challenging for us to qualify for skilled jobs. Measures have been introduced for fairer hiring processes, but there is a need for clarity in the delivery and implementation of the policy, highlighting the urgent need for fairer and inclusive hiring processes. These barriers stem from a deep-rooted issue of contradictory policies, misaligned employment values, and ultimately perceiving international students as deficient. The disconnect in policies and practice on immigration and international education, employment values, economically motivated policies, and the silo mentality of all the stakeholders. All these combined create a thinking model in which international students are perceived deficient in employment capital, and this perception significantly limits our access to meaningful employment.
Now we see what are the solutions available to address this issue. The first one is International Student Connect program. This is the only Ontario provincial program which give information to international students to mitigate their issues. But the issue with this program is it's only give informations. It won't help with anything in practical. The second solution we are having is policy enhancement. In the year 2000, PGWP, Postgraduate Work Permit System, was introduced, where international students was given work opportunities soon after the graduation. And in 2023, Bill 149 was introduced by the Ontario government. This bill is a policy that mandates employers cannot expect Canadian work experience from foreign students. The main objective of this policy is to value the international experience we have. But there is a flaw in this policy. How a person could monitor the behavioral thinking patterns of the employer. What if the employer still expects Canadian experience? How the policy is going to monitor this? The third solution we are having is career development initiative by the colleges. Now, the interventions and recommendations we suggest. The first one is expand support program. Increase funding for these programs. Settlement programs. Settlement programs are already available in Canada and in Ontario, but only for immigrants and refugees, but not for international students. So we recommend to allocate fundings to international students as well in these settlement programs. Our second intervention is stable and transparent education and immigration system. If you could notice, from 2024 January, apparently every week, the policy about international students are getting changed, amended, interpreted in different ways, which makes everybody confused. International students also don't know what to do, and also employers really confused about the status of the international students. The third intervention we suggest is wage subsidiary program for international students. Create programs similar to Canada's youth employment and skill strategies. For example, summer jobs. Summer jobs is an opportunity given to students, but international students do not get that privilege to work while they are studying in the summer job. This opportunity is provided to domestic students and also to refugees, but not for international students. Why is that? Why Canadian policy is seeing us as outsiders? So this is very easy to accommodate us also in the summer job programs. Our final intervention is we suggest to create strong stakeholder collaboration. So the key learnings here is Now the government tends to associate international students with national crises such as housing and economic hardship. Media may also promote this view recently. Hatred is spreading within the community regarding international students in social media, which are not good signs for the future. What connects all this is the deficit-based perspective on the policy level towards international students. We understand changing the mindset of people is really hard because what we think is very subjective. But at least to try give awareness will help to mitigate these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Centennial. Amazing work, and really appreciate you diving into an issue connected to your own experiences as a team, so thanks so much. Just want to say I really liked how you delivered your root cause analysis, as well as including that historic timeline and sharing with us the really important mental models behind this issue. I thought you did a really great job in your presentation and in your materials, breaking down this complex topic into a digestible, accessible format for readers. So great work on that. My question is around if you, in your research, have come across any trends that you might expect in the future around systemic actions that might impact education or employment, or those two pieces together. Do you, have you come across that in your work, or do you anticipate seeing any opportunities in the future of where, the direction that this topic is headed and how your leverage points might fit into that space?
Through our research on specifically the policy changes over the years, we have seen that there is the trend of policies being unstrategic, unfortunately, and there are very sudden changes, such as, especially this year, since the beginning of 2024, we have been seeing a lot of policy changes every other week, which unfortunately are against international student integration into the Canadian society. We feel that our leverage points and our interventions of being able to build awareness around this in the Canadian society can, be the point of change for us in the future. We thought of a few things that we could do. For example, we could start with awareness within our own college, where we can, talk to the people who are there. We can talk through our point of contacts who are able to, take our voices to maybe upper management or the administration. And we also really want to build this leadership among international students ourselves, and we really want to speak to other international students, because this deficit-based perspective towards international student we feel is not just an outsider perspective, but sometimes it's also very internalized when we step into a system where it's so common that international students are thought of as deficit or deficient. So we really want to create that leadership within the group itself too.
Thank you so much.
Hi, just want to echo my fellow judge. Thank you so much for a great presentation and really sharing the experiences you have, and also kind of breaking down the mental models that exist not only within employers, but how that can really impact policies moving forward. So just a question, noting that immigration and jobs are really hot topics when it comes to solutions and finding solutions. So I'm kind of curious to know how public opinion can play into any of the solutions that you have recommended, or if there's going to be any other solutions that you might have highlighted but would like to speak more to.
So when it comes to public opinion, public opinion is influenced by, nowadays it's mostly influenced by the social media and the media newses. The media newses is mostly influenced by the intentions of the politicians. That's what we say. Like, for example, every time when a national crisis issue is addressed, the international students will be the hot topic. They say like international students and then housing issue. International students, then economical crisis. This is not going to work. If this continue, then public will, Canadians will think that, okay, international students are the reason. If you like stop international students, everything will be sorted out. But that's not the case. So it should be start from the hierarchy of the system. And then changing a person's personal perspective is like really hard. To be honest, basically Canada is an immigrant country. Everybody has a different background from some other countries in the world. But still, we have even some international students who are now PRO citizens, they have the opinions against international students. That has to be changed, but it's not like a day and night change, but it takes time, but by creating awareness from the top level to the bottom.
It's sorry, I would just like to add one thing. It is definitely, as we said, a multi-stakeholder approach that we want to go for, and we really need that to be able to create change. And our group, we truly think that all that starts at the policy level, and we would really like to reinforce the idea that, you know, policymakers need to really take this into consideration and come up with policies that are more strategic and stable and allow international students to be truly integrated into the Canadian society, which is what the Canadian International Education Strategy actually proposes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So just a comment on international students. Map the System has hugely disproportionate, when you compare the population of international students to domestic students just in the general university population or college population, Map the System has a much, much higher proportion of international students. It would be, honestly, it would be a shadow of itself without international students. So viewed as an asset, absolutely. I can't imagine Map the System without international students. So thank you for reminding us.